Hello everybody. So I've talked about this and I'm blue in the face talking about it. I'm sure people, if you watch my channel, there's hundreds and hundreds of videos I have talking about each issue because I'm very passionate about this. I have a huge amount of respect for the men and women of Oak Creek and Heron, the Defence Forces. I have a huge respect. They go out of their way, they do a huge amount of training, put a huge amount of effort in to serve our country, to serve you and me, the Irish people, in defence of our state. If anything ever happened, God forbid, they would be the people that would be on the front lines. And we owe them a lot, and we don't appreciate them. I think in this country we don't appreciate the defence forces enough. But they are brave men and women, and the people that sign on for the defence forces are brave men and women. And us as a state, the people of Ireland, should be demanding of our government to treat them with respect, and to treat with some kind of decency. And that's all at the end of the day they're looking for: a bit of respect and a bit of decency, a bit of loyalty and respect. That's what they're looking for. And I'm blue in the face saying it. And again, promises have been made, and never kept. And, thankfully, again, I'm be all over the place here because there's hundreds of millions of things that could go on for an hour. But, long story short, for years they've been saying, they've been cutting the Defence Forces spending a lot. So, for the first time in a long time, for the first time probably in modern Irish history, it's €1 billion, which sounds like a lot. But in terms of other countries, it's not. It's barely, it's not even 1% of Ireland's GDP in defence spending. And that's because for years it's been critically undercutted for the last 30 years. And we're an army of a bygone generation. We're not a modern army. We're basically nearly in the 70s, I say, in terms of fighting capability. And just to mention, this really tells us all we need to know this next part. Is the government's own Committee on Defence has stated, and this is the government themselves, the Defence Force and the government itself, have stated that the Irish Defence Forces, both air and navy and land forces, could not defend one county. So there's 26 counties in the Republic of Ireland, could not defend one county if we were attacked in the morning. Take for example Sligo. We could not defend it with the numbers and the equipment we have in the moment. So what hope is to defending the whole state? And there's many things we could talk about, but that alone should be a wake-up call for our state, that it is not, the army is completely broken. And not by the men and women of the army, it's the governments, the people in the top, it's the ministers of defence, it's the people at the top. And I would really say the president at this stage, because as commander-in-chief, even though it's a ceremonial role, he should be demanding that the army be boosted, etc., etc. Now, we've seen numbers, and this is the main issue, I think, in the Defence Force, and the thing that has to be addressed before anything else about talking, get new equipment, this, that, and the other. Like, they're busy buying boats off New Zealand, etc., etc., with nobody to put on the boats, lying in port, doing nothing. It doesn't make any sense. You think to be more worried about sorting the main core issue, and the main core issue in the Defence Force is pay and conditions. It's long hours. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of training to get into the Defence Forces. You just don't turn up in the army. It's a lot of effort, and we have to admire the people who go through that effort. But the pay and conditions, I've often heard of people in Athlone from Cavan that had to sleep in their car because they couldn't afford the petrol to come home. And some people have left the Defence Forces to go and work in Tesco. And that just tells you all you need to know. There's a huge issue with pay and conditions. Because again, at the end of the day, these men and women, they're in their 20s, they're in their 30s. They have a mortgage to pay, they have a family. They should be given a good bit of wage. And again, as we've seen with poor Private Sean Rooney over in Lebanon, some of them give the ultimate sacrifice for their service to the country and the state, and for humanity too, as the United Nations peacekeepers, in trying to preserve the most crucial thing in the world, I'm sure we would all agree, is peace. Trying to bring stability to regions that are at war. And again, still to this, that we don't have the perpetrator that killed Private Sean Rooney is still not brought to justice, and something needs to be done about that. But we should fight for the conditions, because it is important that we have a good standing army and the people are well looked after. The thing about years ago, I even knew people who were retired members of the Defence Forces now. They said about during the Troubles, etc., etc. They were well paid, etc., etc. It was a good job, and it was a good pension, they used to have army ads in. It was a good pension, it was good money, and it was good food, etc., etc. Nowadays, there's none of that, unfortunately. But that's the main issue, in conditions too, in terms of Navy ships, etc., etc. Because some people had to sleep on decks in the Navy ships at some points because there wasn't enough beds in the Navy ships for them, which was utterly ridiculous to be told. In a modern army, we shouldn't have it. In a modern state too, one of the richest states in the world, we shouldn't have it. But I move on to other issues too in the Defence Forces. So obviously that. And obviously in the Defence Force, as we speak at the moment, in terms of the naval service, and I do think this is the most crucial thing at the moment, as we've seen with the huge drug haul that was found in the container ship there a few months ago off the coast of Cork. 175 million or something like that worth of drugs. And at the moment as we speak now, the Irish Navy has 7 ships, give or take a bit more maybe. But long story short, only one ship in the whole state is out on patrol. That's literally all. All the rest of them are docked in port because there's not enough sailors. Now I do give the government a bit of thanks here that they did increase the service allowance for Navy seamen and women in the Navy for going out on patrol, because obviously they get a bit extra for going out on patrol, because it is a tough life being in the Navy, being out at sea, etc., being away for a few months, etc., patrolling the shores, etc. And I do admire that, but at the end of the day, it doesn't solve the main issues in the Navy, to be totally honest. It doesn't solve it. Because when you see loads of ships docked up in port, and there's nobody to man the ships, the patrol, and especially the Irish territorial waters around Ireland, it's huge, it's over 1 million or so territorial waters, it's a huge amount for one Navy ship, and their duties are to stop, obviously, piracy, etc., and legal fishing, etc., and then obviously surveillance ships. We've seen the other day of a Russian ship off the coast of the Isle of Man near the Irish coast in the Irish territorial water side. We have ships that are doing that, surveilling underground cables, etc. We shouldn't be allowing that. And the fact there's only one ship it's criminal, really, because they have to patrol a huge amount of the coast, and it's insane. And again, it just basically gives them a pass. The drug dealers, drug barons, etc., human traffickers too. Ireland's huge amount of human traffic going on. But it just basically gives them a free pass, and there's nothing we can do to stop them. There's only one whole ship in the state to stop them from doing it. And again, it's critically underfunded. And it's not that we don't have the ships. There is ships that docked in port gathering dust. It doesn't make any sense why this is the case. So we do need to address that, and it's very serious national security concerns. It's very, very serious. And as every citizen of the country should take it very, very serious, because we're just basically letting drugs come in, and we're doing nothing to stop it. Because if we had a big navy, etc., there'd be less drugs coming in the boats, because they have to come from somewhere, and they're coming in on ships, from mother ships, like big container ships as we see most seas, on smaller ships and land on the shore. And that's what's happening. And we do need to be very serious about it, because the way it's going at the moment, it's pretty bad. It's as bad as it can get, to be totally honest. We need to take it very seriously as citizens of Ireland. And then I move on to the Air Corps. Just to briefly mention, and I've done a video on in the past, but just to briefly mention because I'm not doing justice here, but 110 unexplained deaths in the Air Corps over the last few years to do with chemicals and maintaining planes, etc. The Irish state has never acknowledged this, but there is and a few people are very sick because of it now, still to this day. People that in engines of planes, etc. There's chemicals in it. Michael D. Higgins, the Commander-in-Chief of the Army, the President of the Irish Republic, has been given letters about this to try and get something done, address it. Still, to this day, as far as I'm aware, nothing really has been done about it. So we do need action. We need something to be done. We need an inquiry set up to find out what happened to these men. We kind of know what happened to them, but the state needs to acknowledge what's the situation here. And I don't think many politicians are willing to stand up and say about it. But yeah, there's many other issues that can go into. Take, for example, I will give the government credit here that we're only getting radar now, and it's not like only civilian radar, it's military radar. We're the only country in Europe, we're the last country in Europe, just to say, that only got military radar. So we can finally see, it's not set up yet, but they have it, they're paid for it, etc., 140 million or something. Obviously it's going to be expensive, but the point is, we never had military radar before. And then just going back to the ships, the Navy ships, we don't have sonar on the ships to see submarines under the ground. So basically we can only see what we see in front of us. So the Navy and the Irish Navy is basically what you can see, it's not sonar. As far as I can gather, maybe that I've read recently, but I don't think so. But talking to a few people that were in the Navy back in the day and they didn't have sonar, back in the early 2000s, they didn't have sonar on the ships. So maybe it's changed now, I don't know, but there's many other things that can go into. Take, for example, we don't have any fighter jets. We're the only country nearly in the European Union that don't have any fighter jets. We have no fighters to send up if anything was up above Irish skies. It's the RAF. We have to rely on the Royal Air Force, the British Royal Air Force, to defend our skies. And as a country, and I do say that the Minister of Defence, and just I should have probably started with this, the Minister for Defence believes that Ireland doesn't have sovereignty, doesn't want a backwards looking idea of sovereignty. That's Micheál Martin, that's the Minister of Defence. That really tells you all you need to know. But what they're trying to do here is a European army, Ireland join the European army. They don't want an Irish Defence Force. They don't want any idea of sovereignty. That's really what it is about. Because that's the only explanation I can come up with. Why was it quickly underfunded? Why is it still critically underfunded and under-equipped, etc. Now, there's many other issues that can go in. I can be here for 9 hours. But I do say we need to take defence more seriously in this country. And again, the threats are becoming more apparent, etc., more varied. It comes cyber security, etc. That's a whole different kettle of fish. But what I'm trying to say, we need to make it a topic of the election. That defence is put as one of the top priorities too at the state. That we have the means to defend ourselves, not to take over any other country, not to invade any other country. We're there to defend ourselves. And I do think the people of Ireland deserve that. We deserve to defend our sovereignty. We fought for 800 years to fight off the British of our land. We deserve to be free, we deserve to be independent, and we deserve to be sovereign. And that's the end of it. And I do think the only way we can do that is with defence forces. That is properly funded, properly equipped. And the way how we do that is we get somebody that's a pro member of the, like someone that really cares, has a deep soul for the defence forces, not some soulless politician in Dáil Éireann that doesn't believe in the backwards looking ideas. And then the person before him, Paul Keogh, wasn't much better either. We're not getting into that because there's more things that could be said. But what I'm trying to say, we should have more respect for our men and women of the defence force. It's not an easy job. It's a tough job. And we should basically bow our heads and say thank you for your service. To any member of the Defence Forces, thank you for your service. Both Army, Navy and Air Corps, we appreciate it. I know you don't feel appreciated by the government, but me and everybody, I'm sure here, everybody watching this video does appreciate the men and women of Oak Creek and the Heron for their service to the state. And we do appreciate you. And I know it's easy saying it, but we do appreciate it. And we're very thankful for people like you that keep us safe and defend our sovereignty and defend our freedom and our democracy. So thank you for watching. Take care. Bye.